Creative Katie here. Welcome to my channel and an art journal tutorial page. I'm so excited to share this one with you. I absolutely love. This started out as a piece of masterboard that I cut into a 6x6 square and glued it down into my Canson Mixed Media 7x10 art journal. And I'll put a link to the video where I made the masterboard and the other things that I made at the same time. Now I wanted to go black, white with the pop of color. So I'm painting the background with black gesso, but you can use black acrylic paint. And, you know, since I'm putting the picture or the masterboard right in the middle, I really didn't have to put the black paint in the middle, but I did. I'm giving this just a good coat of black gesso. I like it because it's a little more opaque, very dark and rich and creamy looking. After giving that a good dry, I'm using gel medium to glue down the masterboard. It's kind of on thicker paper, and I really wanted to make sure that this adhered. So I put a good coat of gel medium down, and then I'm putting a coat of it on the top as well. And I'm pressing it down and making sure, excuse me, that I adhere it completely. Now I made sure that my gesso, my black gesso in the background, is completely dry as well, because I didn't want to smudge and get that over top of my beautiful masterboard. Giving it a dry, pressing it down, making sure everything is perfectly adhered. And it takes a little bit of a while, which is why I left the footage in, because sometimes it's not instantaneous. I find the gel medium takes longer to dry than the fluid matte medium. So I grab this Jungle Vine stencil from the Crafter's Workshop. It's new to me, so it's the first time it's gotten paint, and I'm placed it right across the whole page, and I'm stenciling with white paint. I'm going for bold contrast, black, white, and those two beautiful colors that are in my masterboard, my centerpiece. And I'm going right across the whole thing. And the flow of this stencil is just perfect for this. And I think I'll be definitely using this stencil again. I've got, you know, you make a page and then I get other ideas that's kind of spin-offs from this, of other ways that I can use this stencil. But I love the flow of it. So I'm applying a couple layers of paint, letting it dry a little bit in between, because I want this to be fairly opaque white. So I'm being careful not to move the stencil. Now you can tack the stencil down if you're finding it's shifting, if you have trouble with that. And while it is, you know, a bit tedious to stencil it and get that level of opaque, come back and come back and come back, I highly caution you against putting more paint on your makeup sponge. More paint means there's more chance of getting the paint to seep under. And I wanted it to be fairly crisp. I didn't want it to seep under. So I give it a little bit of time. I'm loving, loving, loving the look of this. Like, I am just so doing the happy dance right now. Giving that a good dry. While I was doing this, I'm thinking, you know, I'm going to come back with my Shimmery Goodness by the Crafter's Workshop, which is like a pearlescent, and I was going to make this pearlescent, and then I decided, you know, I'm not going to. Now, I wanted that center color square to stand out. So the black with the vines is kind of like the matte of a picture, where this is the picture. So I'm using the floating acrylic technique with an angle brush, and I'm basically shading around it, edging this center piece with black. And I go over that a couple times, again, to build up to the level of color that I want. Start with a little and build up to where you want. You can always add more. It's harder to remove. So instantly that changed the look, and I'm liking that. So now I want to edge the paper. Since I have the paint out, everything's there. I'm doing it now. Now you could shade with a charcoal pencil, with a Stabilo. I like using acrylic paint because it's permanent when dry. And if I don't have to put a layer of something on it to protect it, to keep it from moving, I don't want to. I grab my Secura Glaze pen, my black, and I'm going to do some line work on every bit of the white vines. I think it would have been okay if I had left the vines without this detailing, but this is just one more detail. And it all adds to it. I'm not trying to be precise. Now, this Secura Glaze pen is dimensional, so it doesn't dry perfectly flat, and it's shiny. So those are two features that you can't really see on here, but in the finished project, it's really giving that extra oomph. I could have used my fine line bottle, but some of these areas are pretty tiny, and the glaze pen allows me to do a little bit finer work than the fine line bottle. And no, I don't show you all of this, but I do want you to see how wonderful this Secura Glaze pen is. It is bold and it writes so well. It doesn't skip. It doesn't seem to get clogged. I've gone on modeling paste. I'm going on paint. Now I make sure the paint is dry and cool before I use any line pen. I know Diane Reevely often says you need to let the paint dry and cure like overnight. So she rarely does the line work on the same day that she paints. She kind of does it in stages. So she would do all the stenciling, let it dry overnight at least, and then do line work, in a line work session. So I'm loving the background page. Now I'm deciding, okay, what am I going to do? Now I bought this stamp, Indigo Blue, this poppycock stamp. And I could not find this on Amazon, but I will link to if I can find something similar. It's a fairly big stamp, and it has lots of line work on it. And I'm stamping on a silicone mat. It just makes it easier to get a good stamp. And I'm just going to stamp more than one. I'm going to fill the whole page with stamps, and then I'm going to add that to my stash. I have all the supplies out. I might as well build my stash. And that just means that the next time I'm creating, this is in my stash, and it's just one step easier to completing something. So if you're short on time, this is a great way to keep your stash filled. As long as you have a good filing system and you know what you have and you can get your hands on it. I'm using archival ink because it's permanent when dry. I love that stamp. It is beyond gorgeous. Now I thought about painting this, but I'm thinking, I've got a strong black and white page going. And again, just like I've been seeing a lot of kind of frame a page with something framing it. I've seen a lot with black and white So I just wanted to do that. So I cut out 3 of them. Now I'm just shading a little bit, getting a little bit darker in that just to make it pop and stand out. And I apologize. I'm using, because this was glued down with the Fluid Matte Medium, it is now a non-porous surface, I can use my big brush pen, which is India ink, and you can put it on and then smudge it with your fingers. Workable for a little bit, but it is permanent when dry. So I'm just going around the edge. I wanted it to be a little bit darker. Then I decide I want to put the word grow in here, but there's a little bit of extra white here. So I'm just getting some paint that I know I used in the masterboard and kind of knocking back that white so that when I stamp white on here, it's going to show up. So you can always alter your background or tweak it should you find that you want to put a sentiment on there. So I stamped this out on a piece of paper just to get basic size. It's just part of my process when I'm deciding what word or how it looks. I want to audition it, I guess, before I stamp. And I position it, and I'm coming back with the blocks and stamping with white acrylic paint. Now, full disclosure, I end up wiping this off. I didn't like how it overlapped, and I started over. But that I don't think I got on the camera. So if you notice a difference, if you're one of those eagle eye people, you'll notice that it is somewhat different. Oh, there I go. I did put both of them in. And I guess I decided to leave it in because we're not perfect. So I wiped it off with the baby wipe. I added a little more paint, and I can go. There's nothing that you can do that's not fixable. And I wanted the lettering to be a little more opaque, so I come in with white paint and my fine line brush, and I'm just painting it more opaque white. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you love this page as much as I do. I hope you give the colors and the black and white framed approach a try. I definitely will be doing more. There are some close-ups coming up. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Check out where I create this masterboard in the linked video. Bye for now.